The cost of the conflict in Ukraine hasn't hit the global economy as badly as some had predicted. So says the World Trade Organization. Its report into the impact of the conflict on global trade and development estimated growth in 2022 was above a previous forecast of 3% and substantially higher than its worst estimates. Detailed figures will be published in April. As the conflict caused major disruption to exports, including wheat and fuel, the value of Ukrainian exports collapsed by 30% last year. Meanwhile, Russian exports expanded by over 15% in value terms over the same period because of the price of fuels, fertilizers and cereals rising. Well, Hosuk Lee-Makiyama is director of the European Centre for International Political Economy. Good to have you back on the programme, Hosuk. The WTO suggesting that global trade is doing much better than people had expected, despite the war in Ukraine. Why is that?
Well, WTO reports that the international trade is now up by 3%, but it doesn't actually necessarily tell the fact that it was supposed to be much higher because we were on the rebound from the pandemic. And also, if you look at the economic outlook from IMF and other institutions, we see that the GDP projections are not as bad as we thought they would be. We didn't actually go full into a recession. There are a couple other technical reasons as well. For example, that the international trade is measured in dollars, which has actually appreciated quite a lot. So there isn't actually a foreign exchange effect. And also, exactly as you mentioned very rightly, that Russia has increased the export by 16% and has pretty much continued its trade in the fuel. And 75% of Russia's export is actually in the mineral oil. So we have seen more stability than we expected. But the truth is we haven't seen the recovery that we expected either.
There had been a concern of higher food prices and supply shortages. The WTO report found that those have not materialised, but they have to a degree, haven't they?
Yes, I have to agree with you and disagree a little bit with the WTO Secretariat, because if you look at the basic staples like wheat, maize, or even fertilizers, the price is up by 20–30%. So that means that volumes are actually down by 20%, leading to basically a stable trade, but we are actually trading less in volumes, which is, okay, I guess, okay if you can afford it. But if you're in amongst the lowest 20% who can actually afford to buy wheat and maize, you are in a lot of trouble. And so this is another factor that we have to count in, that if you just measure in dollars and cents, yeah, sure, the trade goes on. So you can say that business is okay, but trade is definitely down.
And Ukraine, of course, a major exporter of goods like wheat, their exports down by 30%. How has that affected the global picture?
Well, here's the bottom 20% I was talking about. So, for example, much of Africa, but also UN aid agencies like UN Food Program is actually procuring much of their food stock actually from Ukraine, and because Ukraine has an incredible ability to produce at a surplus. So these countries or organizations have been forced to find new suppliers, and that means new shipping routes, new contract that has to be signed, and that comes actually at, extra marginal cost. And this is basically what we are seeing here, that some places in the world have basically been displaced from the food security. That's no denying about it.
Okay, Hosuk Lee-Makiyama from the European Centre for International Political Economy. Good to talk to you as always. Thank you for joining us.
Nice to be here.